Good. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Jack, and if you are new here, welcome. I am constantly using the phrase design a life around your brain and values and needs, and today I really wanted to take the time to sit down and chat with you about what that really means, how I actually do that in my life, and how you can as well if that's something you're interested in doing. If it is, let's get into it, shall we? The way that I like thinking about this is we grow up and we are indoctrinated with a lot of beliefs, societal and familial and cultural norms. We learn from an early age what may make someone successful or happy, and you kind of just grow up learning the right way to be a human and to be an adult. And oftentimes, if you don't take the time to actively deconstruct and examine those beliefs and values and norms, you're gonna just be on autopilot and sort of living in that place. So that is why I think it's really important that we figure out what our needs are and what our challenges are, what our strengths are, what our beliefs are, and what our values are, and intentionally design a life that is centered around those things. This is not an easy, quick, overnight process. This is an ongoing journey with many stages and phases. It is also something that will vary based on your own access, privilege, needs, stages in your life, and so on, right? Like it will be a lot easier to do certain things without kids or with access to financial privilege or racial privilege or all of these different things. So I just think it's really important to name that and know that there's a lot of societal things in play that can make this really, really challenging. For example, we live in a capitalist society, so we have confines in place already. But the question that I'm posing here today for us to explore is what is in our control and how can we start navigating that and playing around with that and kind of breaking down those rules and figuring out what it is that works best for us. Another way that I like thinking about this is I don't know if you can hear all of the birds in the background, but they are making an appearance. So hopefully they bring you peace and not distraction like they're doing a little bit for me. So one of the ways that I also like thinking about this process is as a gardener, a new gardener, if you were to think about your garden and maybe some of the plants were struggling or wilting or just not thriving, the first thing that I would ask was not what is wrong with the plant's broken, the plant's not working right, and kind of be like all shameful and judging of the plant. I would be asking like what is going on in this plant's environment that is not allowing it to thrive. So I might look at the soil, I might look at the access to sun and water, and really examine what it is specifically that plant needs to live a life. I was gonna say a beautiful life, but that's probably a little dramatic. To live, to live and to survive and to thrive. So when we think about ourselves, I think oftentimes when we're struggling, when we're having mental health challenges, when we're not doing well at our job or at school, or when we're struggling to do adulting stuff or not happy or whatever the case may be, we can get really full of shame and self-blame and really try to change ourselves to make ourselves fit in whatever mold is making us unhappy. For some people, this might be helpful and interesting, and for other people, like myself, someone who's neurodivergent with ADHD and with a lot of mental health challenges and some chronic health issues, this is not just a question that I want to explore. This is a question I have been forced to explore because the neurotypical way of functioning and being quite literally doesn't work for me. So I'm going to start by sharing some of my own journey to designing my own life around my own needs and what that has looked like. And then I'm going to leave you with some prompts and things to explore for yourself when it comes to designing your own life around your own needs. So let's do this. This inquiry became very relevant to me in law school. So I was in law school and I was really struggling with my mental health. That's when I got diagnosed with ADHD. So I'm gonna pop in the description box and up here my mental health journey and my ADHD journey in case those are relevant to you. But basically I was really struggling, and the education system wasn't working for me. The lifestyle associated with going to law school and being a lawyer wasn't working for me. And as I got diagnosed with ADHD and started really having some physical health issues as well, I just started realizing like something's gotta change or I am not going to be able to function and to do this, nor do I want to. I was living in New York City and just like grinding, and that lifestyle is not for me. As you can see, I'm in nature right now, super slow paced, calm, birds chirping. That is more my speed. So after a lot of soul searching and really hard decision making, after I graduated law school, I decided to leave that behind and totally switch gears, which is not an easy decision for many reasons, as I'm sure you can imagine, and started really envisioning what it is that I wanted and needed to create my own version of happiness and success. So I ended up moving from New York to California and just kind of totally starting over. So over a really long time period of figuring all of these things out, there were a bunch of different categories that I started questioning and navigating. So in these different categories, I started asking what were my needs, what are my challenges, what are my strengths, what makes me happy. So starting in the category, let's start with work. So like I said, I realized that a 9 to 5 was not going to work for my brain. I, first of all, don't like being awake that early. I don't do well with someone telling me what to do and not having creative freedom. I didn't like the idea of like having to ask for time off and just, not having the ability to kind of do what I want as I want and jump around and go based on my interests. So I really deep dived into entrepreneurship and started my own business, which was and is Authentically ADHD, which is a life coaching business for people with ADHD. For a long time, I had to work double, right? So I was like working my job at the time and building this up for many months and really kind of like hustling and grinding to get that going. Now in the realm of work, some things that I consider and utilize when building that around my needs is having a VA and making sure that's in my expense needs to do, because I need the help with the boring stuff that my brain just won't activate to do. So I had to like really lean into a lot of support in that way. My work time, I never start until 10 a.m. There's no client calls before 10 a.m., which is amazing. And I have a variety of different things that I'm doing all of the time. So like one-on-one, group, membership, YouTube, Instagram, and being able to like bounce around based on my interests and creative desires is really exciting. And that's something I'm really working on actively right now with this YouTube, is like I'm feeling really drawn to having a little less time with clients face to face. Even though I love it so much, it can be really draining, and just craving more of creating, especially like not just in the niche of ADHD. I'm really working on building this YouTube channel up. Thank you to everyone who's here supporting me. It's really helping me meet my dream life. So moving into the realm of physical environments and figuring out what works for me. I am currently living in Santa Cruz, California. I live alone in the forest, though my landlord is in the same house, which is really nice and safe. And I love so many things about it. I love living alone and having the ability to kind of control my sensory needs. So not a lot of sounds and no chemicals or really strong smells and things of that nature, and also allows me to be messy when I need to be messy, which is a quite regular occurrence. Part of the reason I'm in Santa Cruz is because of the weather. I thrive in like 70-ish degree weather, and that is pretty much what it is all year around here. I grew up in upstate New York, and as much as I miss living there, I miss my friends and family so much, I hate winter, and I just felt like it took away so much of my year. Santa Cruz is like one of the most expensive places to live in the country, so I'm not like suggesting that everyone has the ability to just like up and move to a different state. I'm just being transparent and honest about my process and what has worked and hasn't worked for me. For environment and home, I also really love that I'm like 15-20 minutes to a really amazing downtown that I can go to, that there's like so much going on and I can get a lot of sensory input. I don't mind driving that regularly, but I can also escape into a really secluded, quiet, peaceful place. I've been working so hard on finances and really aligning my financial goals with my values and my needs and my dreams. I've been using a platform called YNAB, which stands for You Need a Budget, which is so good for my brain. It basically is like an online envelope system where it's like you have like a rent category and you fill the envelope virtually, and you have a groceries category and you have a savings category and all of these kinds of things. That's really allowed me to have my goals shine through in my finances. It's like my goals become like little financial envelopes, and it's really inspiring and encouraging. And so I've done a lot of thinking on how I wanted to go paying off my debt and what's aligned with myself. Like, do I want to like pay off my debt super fast, or do I want to give myself X amount of time? And so I found kind of a happy medium where I'll be paying all of my debt off by December, which I'm so happy about. If you want me to make a video deep diving into finances, I'm happy to do that. I'm not going to like deep dive here, just sharing some of the things that have really helped me. So really, after getting clear on the lifestyle that I want, my rent, my savings goals, my debt payoff goals, and all of the things, it became clear to me that I need to be making at this moment in my life no less than 7K a month, and ideally around 10K a month, which I know is a lot of money. And so I've then had to like reverse engineer what that means income wise to be able to meet that, and then just really align my purchases with what feels important to me. Yeah, so I'm not going to deep dive further into that. If you want me to, just let me know. Designing my social life and relationships around my needs has been so rewarding. I used to be such a people pleaser and had no boundaries and would say yes to everything and really run myself down, become resentful, and just feel burnt out in a lot of my relationships, feeling like I was masking a lot. I'm an Enneagram 2, if that means anything to anyone. And what Enneagram type are you, if you know what I'm talking about? And if you don't, definitely look it up, because it's a really fun personality thing to explore. Now, I am really intentional about who I have relationships with. So for my friendships, it's really critical to me that people honor my boundaries, honor their own boundaries and needs. They understand that I'm going to go through highs and lows, and I'm going to flake sometimes, and I'm going to dip out randomly, and then I'm going to be like super into it, and like, yeah, I need them to accept that and also be willing to talk with me and go through repair processes if anything that I do or they do is harmful to the friendship. And then the same thing goes for my relationship. So I'm currently in my first queer relationship, which is the best experience ever. And it has been really fun exploring relationship agreements and ideas and figuring out what works for us. You get to explore all the different roles and get to kind of just break out of that script that's laid out for a lot of hetero relationships. And that has been so much fun on so many levels, and also just really exploring what type of relationship do you want to be in? Do you want to be in a monogamous relationship? Do you want to be in a polyamorous relationship? What works for you? For me, being in a monogamous relationship feels really good and soothing to my nervous system, and I also really love breaking down more of like the toxic monogamy culture and just kind of creating our own rules and figuring out what works for us with lots of communication. Some general lifestyle things that I have really explored and worked on is like letting go of consistency is a huge one. So I used to really hold myself to these standards of being really consistent with keeping my house clean or working out or eating a certain way or even showing up in social settings and things like that. And I have just let go of that expectation, which is so freeing because I'm not a consistent person. I'm like an all in and then all out and then all in and then all out. And while I do sometimes work to try to find some balance in that, the most helpful thing has been to just accept it and work with it, because at the end of the day, if it's not harming anyone, then why does it matter? There's no rules. There's no rule book here. So we get to decide our own rules, and really making sure I build into my lifestyle a lot of alone time and recharge time. So I need at least one day out of the week where I have no obligations, nothing planned. It's usually my Sundays at the moment. And even though that's not always the norm and not everyone needs as much alone time or recharge time as I do, it's what I need. So I just build that in. There's a lot of other things that come up here. I think like in the realm of lifestyle, I think about clothing, and I really think about how I pretty much only buy clothing that is so comfortable. I have a pretty limited wardrobe actually of just staple items that I love so I can avoid decision fatigue. A lot of them like mix and match and go together, and yeah, just on a sensory level feel really comfy. I've given up wearing anything that does not feel comfortable. It's just not going to do it for me. To me, I value comfort way more than how I look, and for someone else that might not be the case, and we get to again decide that fully on our own. In the realm of physical health, I mentioned I have some different health challenges. One of the things that I have really had to accept is I have flare-ups, and I go through periods of time where I feel not good, where I've got rashes, or I'm really tired, or my nervous system just feels whacked out, and I have had to adjust my diet and find a thing that feels not too restrictive, where I get into like orthorexia territory, but does really help me feel physically my best. For me, that looks like not eating gluten or dairy. At the moment, I'm always playing around and figuring out that line. I need 8 to 9 hours of sleep plus every night. It's just what works for me, so I have to build that in. And my body is a body that needs to move. So figuring out what that type of movement is. I love dance, I love climbing, hiking, walking, and dance is my favorite at the moment. It always changes for me, but at the moment it feels the best physically in my body, and also it works with my brain for that accountability of like signing up for a class and going and sort of being with people but doing your own thing at the same time. I've also deal with something called PMDD, which is like a really extreme version of PMS, and I know that how I feel changes very much throughout the month. So right before my period, I know I'm way more tired and just like way less physically able than I am after my cycle ends. And so I do really try to plan accordingly to my menstrual cycle and maybe have more social events at certain time and then more alone time or different types of physical activity to match where I'm at in my cycle as well. The last category that I'm going to cover today is mental health and neurodivergence. So everyone's brain works differently. That is what neurodiversity is. And some people like myself diverge from the norm. And that's when it becomes especially important to figure out your own norm and figure out your own needs. And also, depending on what kind of mental health struggles you've got going on, it's important to honor those and to get whatever support and you need and to build that into your life, build that acceptance and that healing and whatever it is that you might need. For me, it feels like this area touches all of the other areas because I know that I deal with depression, anxiety, and ADHD, and I have had to navigate that So that looks like a lot of different things. It looks like having a lot of support, whether that's therapy, coaching, friends, community, or so on. It means everything else that I described, how I set up my social life and my schedule and my work, and how I allow ample room for rest and recovery. All of these things touch on the way that my brain works and functions. So there's not actually too much to add, except for, to me, that feels almost like the big umbrella piece here is like really working with my own brain and my own needs is a huge piece of it for me. If you want to begin exploring this for yourself, there's a lot of different things that you can do. You can kind of just riff based on what you heard from me and what you think would be important next step. You can really start to do some visioning on these categories that I mentioned. So I'm going to name them again right now and put them right here for you. Your environment, work/career, financial, lifestyle, social and relationship, mental health and neurodiversity, and physical health. Of course, if you have anything else you want to add, feel free to do that. So you can have those categories all laid out, and you can ask yourself for each of those categories, what is working and what is not working? And you can start to vision for each of those categories what would be ideal for you. What is that dream? And I want to encourage you here to dream big. It doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight, but really allow yourself to vision and ideate on what would be a beautiful dream life in these categories for you, and get really clear on that. Some people like doing that in writing, some people like doing that in a vision board, some people like verbal processing it. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Whatever feels good for you. And again, this is for you, so if the categories don't work for you or you have another way that you think might be supportive, I trust you to do what's going to work for you. You can also explore the question of what are my values or what is important to me. So really sitting with what are the things that really matter to you. If that feels really overwhelming, you can think, what are the things that really matter to me in this season of life? Or what are my values in this season of life? And as you go through those values, I would be asking yourself, like, is that yours? Where did you learn that from? Is that your parents' value? Is that society's value? Do you want to keep that? Do you want to get rid of it? Do you want to add things? And just kind of start gently questioning things and shaking them up. The last thing that you can do, and you can do these in any order, you can choose one, you can do all three of them, is go through each category I mentioned earlier and ask yourself, what beliefs do I have around these categories? So for example, if we're in the category of career or something, you may have a belief that working a 9 to 5 is the best path to security. If you're in the realm of lifestyle, you may have this belief of people who wake up early are successful, or you might have beliefs around consistency is what wins. There's a lot of different things that might come up. And then I want you to, similarly to the values, start investigating those beliefs. Where did that come from? Who is that benefiting? Does that benefit you? Is that something you want to hold on to? And then you can start reframing the ones that you no longer want to hold on to. So maybe just using a simple example, successful people wake up at 5 a.m. Starting to ask yourself, like, who told you that? Are there other examples? And what belief do I actually want to practice for myself? And so for me, that's like successful people do a bunch of different things, and there's no rule that says I need to wake up at 5 a.m. to be successful and happy. And I'm actually most happy when I wake up at like 8 a.m. And so just starting to like rewrite those belief systems for yourself, and overall just rewriting that rule book. It's really freeing when you realize you can like erase, like, these are editable things. These are editable things. They were created by humans and they can be changed by humans as well. Later steps would look like breaking it down further into, okay, great, here is my vision. Now creating time containers for those. So maybe that's, okay, what is possible in the next year? what is like 1 to 3 areas that I really want to focus on moving towards. What might be the needle mover here? Is it like getting out of my relationship? Is it getting into a relationship? Is it changing jobs? Is it moving to a different location? Is it a smaller thing? Is it starting to go for a walk every day? Is it cutting your hair, changing how you dress? What is it? And starting to set those intentions and those goals for time periods at a time. So maybe for you, that's a year. Maybe that's 1 month, maybe that's 6 months. It's completely up to you. I like to break things down into month containers. I just did a monthly reset for the last video if you want to check that out. It's kind of like a more micro way of breaking these things down. But that's how to take it from this like big vision into some more manageable steps, and then figure out what support you need. You don't need to do this alone. Do you need friends? Do you need a therapist? Do you need a coach? Do you need to like gather around community and brainstorm? What is it that you need? Just a little pitch really quickly. These are the main things that I focus on in my coaching. So I've got a membership, group coaching, and one-on-one, all different avenues for exploring this with support. The group and the membership are for people with ADHD. The one-on-one is open to anyone. So if you're interested, just comment and I can chat with you and see if that would be a good fit. But there's so many different options for exploring this. I just had to mention it, you know? So my friends, we are coming to a wrap. So if you're like, wow, that was really cool, but I have no idea where to start, I'm gonna do my best in the description box to break down everything I said and make it a lot more clear around steps that you can take for yourself. So make sure to check out the description box and for prompts and like more step-by-step guidance, but also please comment. This is my favorite thing to talk about, and I would love to hear any questions you have, any of your dreams, where you're getting stuck, anything that you learned today, or anything else it is you want to share with me. I will be responding to everyone in lots of depth and lots of love. I look forward to hearing from you. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. I upload videos every week, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Peace.